Hey guys, it's Misty, athlete mental health coach and author of the Athlete Mental Health Playbook. So today I want to answer the question, how does mental health affect pro athletes? So that's a really big question, especially these days. We're seeing a lot of players and athletes step up and talk about their struggles with mental health, right? Many of them are at the pro level, some are at the collegiate level or amateur level, whichever way you want to refer to it, depending on where they are in their career. But either way, we're seeing a lot of people and individuals step forward to talk about their experiences. So I think awareness is being created that yes, athletes deal with mental health issues. But here's the thing, right? Mental health affects athletes much of the same way, in exactly the same way that it affects you or me, right? Or someone who's not an athlete, I should say. So me or somebody who's not an athlete right now. And the reason behind that is that we're all human and we all have emotions and we all go through difficult times. And many of us actually have mental illness, right? So I myself have struggled with anxiety. I've been diagnosed with depression in the past. And so these are things that I've had to work through in my life. But you don't necessarily have to be diagnosed with a mental illness to struggle with mental wellness issues. So if we actually look at the definition of mental health is exactly what it sounds like. So you know how when your body is healthy, you say, oh yeah, I'm healthy. Same thing with your mindset. But when your mindset has things like you're going through a really stressful time or you can't sleep or there's something going on that maybe doesn't fit into, I have anxiety or I'm depressed or whatever it is, they can still have issues that pop up, right? You can still go through hard times without being diagnosed with a mental illness. So that's sort of that common factor between athletes and the rest of us. One of the things that differentiates athletes from everyone else is, especially at the pro level, by the way, is just the nature of the business, right? And the fact that in that culture, and this is not unlike other cultures, by the way, but in the culture of sports, especially really masculine sports, you learn to really bury your emotions. Again, I've told this story, but I know I grew up around football and a lot of other, and my husband was a basketball player, and so I've really been around sports a lot in my life, and so I know that this culture exists of don't be weak, don't be soft, walk it off, stop being a baby, why are you crying, blah, 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 blah. Right? And so that probably still exists. Now, it might not exist on the level publicly that we have seen in the past because people are really minding their P's and Q's with that these days, which is awesome. And again, we have athletes that are stepping forward, but still within that cultural space of being in sports, you're gonna have athletes who are not comfortable stepping forward. So my teammate might be the quarterback of the team, or he might be whatever, the captain, and he steps forward and says, oh yeah, guess what, I'm going through a really bout of depression, and everyone acknowledges that, and that is really courageous, by the way, to come out and say that. It is not easy. It took me many years to be able to publicly say, yes, I dealt with depression very seriously, and I've dealt with anxiety, and I still deal with anxiety, right? It took me a long time to be comfortable saying that, so I get it. But the thing again is that who the individual is. Mental health is something that is super, super personal. And it has layers because people have layers, and we've all gone through different experiences in our life, and those things lead to how we view life, but then also to our actions and how we believe that we are allowed to act, right? Or how we are comfortable acting, because if you grew up in a space where it was not comfortable to express your emotions because everyone has problems, so who cares about yours, right? You might not be so comfortable coming forward and saying, you know what, I'm dealing with some stressful issues right now. And all those things, by the way, long-term stress especially, can have effects on your body. They can create other issues down the road. They can create all kinds of different things like substance abuse, or you might be somebody who's really angry, or who's somebody who holds everything in, and all of a sudden you explode and things happen and there's unintended consequences, but it's because everything has finally been released, right? So and again, this is not exclusive to athletes, but it's something that pro athletes I know have deal with a lot, because it's taken most of them a long time to feel comfortable going to somebody and explaining, hey, this is what's going on. And in part, it's again because of how the culture of growing up in these sports where it's not okay to just say, hey, you know what, I'm going through a really tough time. and people saying, oh, okay, because you're under a lot of pressure. You got to go to work, you got to perform, and you don't want that to be ever called into question, especially if you're trying to get to the next level, whatever that next level might be. Even if you are a pro athlete, maybe you want to be a starter pro athlete, or maybe you want your Madden rating to go up, or whatever it is. Like, those are things that you might second guess yourself. Like, if I address these issues, it might affect all of that. So those are things that specifically deal with pro athletes. Now, remember that mental health and wellness, there's issues that can pop up that can affect all of this. They can affect stress, that can throw you off balance. It could be stuff like your health. So maybe you suffer an injury, or there's something else going on, or with your family, or financial pressure, or imposter syndrome, or maybe you have a fear of making mistakes, or there's so many different laundry lists of things that can go on. Again, because we're individuals and we have different things that just happen in our lives. And so I think the bottom line here is that, again, mental health affects pro athletes just like it affects everybody else, but there's might be that other extra layer of, man, I'm supposed to be this really tough athlete. Can I really come forward and address these issues, number one? And number two, am I willing to admit these things to myself? And then number three, if I am willing to admit these things to myself, can I find a way to get comfortable by finding somebody or finding resources to help me work through it? Am I really going to feel okay expressing these things and asking for help? Because asking for help is not something that I like to do, right? And I think that's another really key factor here, again, for a lot of athletes that I work with. It's a big deal when they come to me, because to get to that point, they have to really have a, if you will, come to Jesus with themselves and say, all right, like I need to work this. I'm going to choose peace, and I'm going to choose clarity, and I'm going to choose my long-term happiness over my ego in the moment. And I'm going to go ahead and reach out and say, hey, I want some help working through this. So anyhow, those are some ways that mental health affects pro athletes. And if you are someone who wants more information on any of this, you can go check out purposesoulathletics.com/resources. I have a ton of resources there. Some are free, and you can check that all out. There's lots of stuff there. You can pick up the Athlete Mental Health Playbook on Amazon. It's a paper. You can get the paperback version. There's worksheets and everything in there to start help you start to like work through things. And whatever it is that you need, I'm just encouraging you to check those things out. And remember, just because you're a pro athlete, it doesn't mean you're not human. You're a human, so let's make emotions normal, okay? Let's work together to make emotions normal. And by the way, you can still be mentally tough and get the job done on the field, on the court, wherever it is that you're at, and work towards all those other mental wellness things too. There's a place where they can live together in harmony, and you can still get the results that you want on and off the court or field. So that's it for me today, and we will chat again soon. Thanks for being here.